We typically view algorithms as administrative tools, neutral software designed to organize complex data. However, as these systems begin to dictate the terms of asylum, justice, and welfare, they are doing more than processing information. They are altering the way human beings are known and managed by the state. Today, algorithmic governance applies this logic to the individual, breaking our existence down into discrete, calculable data points. This shift is most visible at the border. The right to asylum, once a matter of human narrative and legal deliberation, is increasingly filtered through automated risk assessments and biometric profiling. Beyond the border, the allocation of vital state resources and the administration of criminal justice are quietly moving from human oversight to machine execution. A strange tension is emerging. As our societal systems become more mathematically optimized, our collective autonomy and our capacity for independent judgment are beginning to fade. These shifts suggest a mutation in our social fabric, one where the calculable takes precedence over the lived experience. To understand how society is being re-engineered, we must trace the philosophical cartography of this shift, from its historical roots to its structural injustices. The Western ambition to regulate human affairs through calculation began long before the modern computer. In 1684, Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz proposed the concept of calculemus, the idea that moral and political disputes could be resolved through a universal arithmetic. By the 19th century, this mathematical ideal moved into statecraft. Adolphe Quetelet pioneered statistical governance, using demographic data to manage populations as predictable masses. Quetelet established l'homme moyen, or the average man. This marked the first time a statistical profile, rather than a legal principle, served as the norm used to govern a population. In the 20th century, the objective changed. We moved from passive observation of data to active, aggressive optimization. John von Neumann's game theory transformed formulas into active tools. Algorithms became mechanisms designed to drive specific, mathematically optimized results. This explains why social toxicity in an algorithm is rarely a software glitch. When a platform maximizes outrage to increase engagement, it is simply delivering the mathematically optimal solution to its objective function. To evaluate the legitimacy of these systems, we have to define what an algorithm actually knows. We can categorize algorithmic knowledge into three regimes of truth. The first is the deterministic rule, which follows explicit, transparent logic from an input to a specific output. Because its reasoning is visible, a deterministic system can be logically audited and contested by human beings. The second regime is statistical correlation. This system identifies patterns across massive datasets. While it is highly effective at prediction, it is prone to confusing a mere correlation with a true cause. The third regime, emergence, is defined by opacity. In deep learning models, the path from input to output is obscured within layers of hidden nodes, making the reasoning behind a decision unreachable for human logic.
This creates a trap. We often confuse operativity, the fact that a system produces a result, with comprehension, the ability to know why it arrived there. Because deep learning simulates knowledge without a knowing subject, it presents its outputs as natural facts, creating an unquestionable authority, bypassing democratic debate. This opacity changes the role of the human operators who manage these systems in welfare and asylum offices. Bernard Stiegler described this as a new form of proletarianization. While industrial machines once replaced the physical skills of the craftsman, algorithmic systems now replace the human capacity for theoretical judgment. When an agent is forced by the scale of the bureaucracy to validate 95% of a machine's recommendations, they lose their own decisional knowledge. They are no longer judging, they are simply confirming. Cornelius Castoriadis identified a tension between an instituted society, one governed by fixed existing laws, and an instituting society, which retains the power to create new ones. Algorithmic governance enforces a state of heteronomy. By using historical data to predict future behavior, it locks society into its past patterns and prevents new norms from emerging. This neutralizes our ability to adapt to the unexpected. If a sudden geopolitical crisis shifts the reality of asylum, A system built on historical patterns cannot organically revise its own criteria. In the search for administrative efficiency, we risk dismantling the very autonomy required for a society to govern itself. The weight of this automated governance is not distributed equally across society. This pyramid shows that while the most fragile populations are subjected to rigid algorithmic control in welfare and immigration, the upper classes continue to receive human-centric, personalized services. Ripping away the context of a refugee's life to fit a calculable data profile is a form of epistemic violence. It reduces a complex existence to a sterile barcode. This creates a deep asymmetry. The power to design these constraints is concentrated at the very top, among a small group of private elites. Jacques Rancière referred to those excluded from political consideration as the sans part, the ones who have no part in the system. In this new ontology, if your life cannot be quantified or exploited for predictive data, you become politically non-existent. The crisis of knowledge and power we are seeing is about to accelerate. Generative AI takes this shift further. It no longer just automates calculation. It actively simulates human judgment and the appearance of human empathy. Scholars Antoinette Rouvroy and Thomas Burns warn that algorithms now govern below the threshold of human will, anticipating our behavior while bypassing our conscious minds.
The idea of empirical consent becomes an illusion if there are no viable, non-algorithmic ways to participate in modern society. Resistance requires us to mandate institutional reflexivity, forcing systems to undergo algorithmic audits and citizen reviews. Reclaiming our power to institute new laws requires us to inject human friction back into the system. We must demand deliberation, where the